I was checking the Bitcoin price every hour, sometimes every 15 minutes. And it was quietly making every decision I made worse. Not because the price was moving, because I kept looking at it. If you've ever found yourself doing that, this is the part nobody warns you about and why it leads to the worst decisions you'll make with Bitcoin. I'm Sats, and this is the habit that has nothing to do with the market but can cost you more than any crash. Let me describe what constant price checking actually looks like from the inside, because I do not think most people recognize it as a problem while they are doing it. It starts reasonably. You buy Bitcoin, you are interested in how it is doing. You check once in the morning, perfectly normal. You check again in the evening, still fine. Then the price moves, maybe up, maybe down, and the next morning you find yourself checking before you have done anything else. Before coffee, sometimes before you have fully woken up. And then the checking starts to multiply. Not because you are making decisions based on what you see. You are not. You are just checking. Refreshing. Looking at a number. And then putting the phone down and picking it up again 12 minutes later because maybe something has changed. This is the part that is hard to explain to someone who has not experienced it. The checking is not really about information. By the 5th or 6th check of the day, you already know what the price is. Another check is not going to tell you anything you do not already know, but you do it anyway, because not checking feels worse than checking, even though checking is making you feel bad. That is not a rational information gathering process. That is a compulsion. If this is the kind of honest Bitcoin conversation you are looking for, the subscribe button is right there. And here's what it does to your decision making. Every time you check the price and it is lower than the last time you checked, you experience a small version of loss. Not a real loss. The Bitcoin has not gone anywhere, but your brain registers a negative, and those small negatives accumulate across the day in a way that distorts how you feel about your position, your reasoning, and your choices. By the end of a day of constant checking during a down period, you feel significantly worse about your Bitcoin than you did at the start of the day, even though nothing has actually changed except the number on a screen. That accumulated bad feeling is what drives panic decisions, not the price itself, the number of times you looked at it. There is research on this. Studies of investors who check their portfolios frequently consistently show worse outcomes than those who check less often. Not because frequent checkers are less knowledgeable, because they are exposed to more short-term noise and make more reactive decisions as a result. The information itself is not harmful. The frequency of exposure to it is. Now, why is this particularly acute with Bitcoin compared to other assets? Because Bitcoin trades 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There is no closing bell, no weekend pause, no moment where the market stops and you get a break from the number. Every time you pick up your phone at any hour, the price has potentially moved. That constant availability is uniquely good at hooking the checking behavior because there is always a reason to look. Traditional stock investors get a natural rhythm imposed on them by market hours. Bitcoin holders do not, which means the discipline of not checking has to come entirely from you. Here is what I eventually did, and it took me longer to do this than it should have. I deleted the price app from my phone. Not blocked it, not moved it to a folder, deleted it. So that checking required a deliberate action rather than a reflexive one. I had to open a browser, type in a URL, wait for it to load. That friction was enough to interrupt the automatic checking loop most of the time. I also set a rule for myself. 1 check per day at the same time. Early evening, after work. Not first thing in the morning, because starting the day with the Bitcoin price puts it in your head for the rest of the day regardless of what it shows. The change in how I felt about my Bitcoin position was almost immediate. Not because the price changed, because I stopped giving it permission to set my emotional state multiple times a day. Here is the deeper thing worth understanding. Constant price checking is a symptom, not a problem in itself. What it usually means is that you are not fully comfortable with the position you are in. Either you have more money in Bitcoin than you can genuinely afford to hold through volatility, in which case the size of the position needs adjusting. Or you do not yet have a clear enough reason for holding it to feel settled when the price moves, in which case the understanding needs deepening. A Bitcoin holder who is genuinely comfortable with their position and their reasoning does not need to check the price every hour. They already know that short-term price movements do not change the long-term case for what they own. The checking happens when that conviction is not yet solid enough to survive the next number on the screen. The price is going to move, it always does. The question is whether you want to feel every single movement as it happens, or whether you want to check in occasionally, remind yourself why you hold it, and get on with the rest of your life. I know which one made me a better Bitcoin holder. So, here is what to take away from this. Checking the Bitcoin price constantly does not keep you informed. It exposes you to more short-term noise, accumulates negative feelings during down periods, and drives worse decisions. The checking is not really about information by the fifth time you do it in a day. It is a compulsion that feeds on itself. Bitcoin's 24/7 availability makes this worse than with any other asset. The discipline of not checking has to come entirely from you. Practical steps that help. Delete the price app. Replace reflexive checking with one deliberate check per day at a set time. Start the day without looking at the price. But the real fix is deeper. If you are checking compulsively, it usually means the position size is too large or the conviction is not yet solid enough. Address one of those and the checking tends to resolve itself. If the reason you are checking constantly is that you are not yet sure why you own Bitcoin or whether the case for it is actually solid, the video on why Bitcoin has value is the place to start. That understanding is what makes the price movements feel less urgent. Watch that next. Stack smart, stay curious. See you in the next stack.